Welcome, my darling pretties, to our Beyond the Dawn of Business podcast for pretty, empowered female entrepreneurs. It's time to step into your power, pretties. Lift each other, support the squad, and choose a life filled with the autonomy and freedom to live your dreams. I'm your host, Dawn Beth, owner and founder of Beyond the Dawn digital business brand and agency. My coffee is hot and my eyelashes are on, so we are ready to go. Hi, and welcome to this episode. Today, I want to talk to you about launching your fantastic products and what the best kind of methods are for doing that so that you get the best results. So launching is something that obviously we as an agency do all of the time. Not only do we support people in all of the admin side, the tech side, the design side, all of that good groovy stuff, but launching is actually very much a theoretic and strategic practice as well. And one of the reasons why social media people and actually media and visibility people in general are the people to talk to when it comes to launching is because we are usually that kind of hybrid character, that hybrid animal that knows enough about social media exposure. We know enough about advertising. We know enough about sales, and we know how all of these things interlink for you to be able to have a successful launch. Now, business operations is key when it comes to launching, but one thing that every single person who has ever done a launch or is ever about to do a launch of any kind, because there's hundreds of different models, is that the majority of launches until you were at a certain stage of business, and, you know, for a lot of people even after, they're quite scrappy. They are. They're scrapped together. They are. Like, it's a lot to sit down and write all of the emails for a launch, or it's a lot to sit down and do the sales page for that launch. And it's a lot to figure out what your graphics are going to be, what your social media posts are going to be. And that's just the promo ones. And, you know, one of the things that I always find quite not alarming, but I guess surprising for me is so many of our clients, when they come to us and they start working with us, they'll come to us and they'll say, great, Dawny, we're loving the idea of coming and working with you, and we would like to launch next month, or we would like to launch in 2 months' time, or we're going to launch in 3 months' time. And you know, we can help, we can assist at that point, but when we build launches for the clients that have been with us for a longer period of time that we've had more involvement with, and for our own successful launches, we're actually working much, much more in advance than that. So we will fully organise and sign off a launch often somewhere between 6 and 5 months before the launch is actually happening, because we will be talking about the themes of the things that we're going to sell. We'll be talking about the things that our audience needs and providing free resources at the same time, giving crazy amount of value, giving an opportunity for people to actually come into our world and have that amazing audience building happen. We'll be doing all of those wonderful things for literally weeks and weeks and weeks ahead of actually taking any, what you may perceive on the outside, launch action. Okay? But it's all launch action. And one of the things that I feel like isn't expressed enough and needs to be something that every serious business owner considers is that if you're not audience building all of the time, you're not bringing in new leads to your company, and you're not allowing yourself the opportunity to have excellent launches. And it doesn't have to be a big live launch. Like I say, there's hundreds of different methods of launching. You can launch in a social media post. You can launch on a podcast. You can launch in your emails. You can launch 100 different ways, probably more. Definitely more. But if you don't have people who are interested in what you're going to buy, and you have signature offers, like I have signature course Audience Attraction that comes out once a year, every single year. Like, I'm really lucky because that particular signature course is about social media. It's about visibility. That, of course, things change every single year. So before we even get to the launch process, we're rebuilding that course every time. It is a rinse and repeat offer, but it's not just a rinse. It's a rinse and a full balayage colour that has to happen inside that course before we can repeat the launch of it, because there's always so much new stuff to talk about. Things change and evolve in technology, on the internet, on all of the social medias. They also change in sales trends. They change in online consumer behaviour. And all of these things are covered in the course. And therefore, we have an opportunity that previous alumni will come on and buy the course again to get the new material. And we have a special alumni price to make sure that it's always desirable and that our people who have been loyal to us get a great deal, because that's really important to us as a company. And we do that, and it's fabulous. And, we have people that join Audience Attraction every single year and love it. But we also need new people who've never done Audience Attraction ever before, right? We need people who have just come into our world, who perhaps have only just discovered me through the podcast or have discovered me through articles in the media or whatever. So we're doing audience building all of the time. You can't have a launch if you have nobody to launch to. And I do appreciate that there are ways to get your offers seen without you having to build your own kind of pen of audience members. Lots of people say, you can launch something, you don't need an audience, you can just do Facebook ads, put it on evergreen, make sure that your Google ads are on point, all of that stuff. And that's great for passive products, but it generally works really well for people who've already got a really nice, juicy audience that is self-generating all of the time. Self-generating audiences is something that happens when you hit a certain level of visibility where you don't have to try as hard to be seen and known, and the opportunities to be seen and to be heard are coming to you in a much more organic way. And that's usually because of the hard work you've done to do that, to get it to that stage, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. It very rarely happens naturally. It is a bit of a slog, and it is something that everybody has to consider when they're thinking about their businesses. And this is one of the reasons why I went into this particular area of business. Although my expertise span outside of social media, the social media stuff is the reason why we kind of dig our heels in. And that's because I feel fundamentally that you need it. It should be one of those things that every single business has a budget for. You should have a marketing budget, and a massive chunk of that budget should go to your social media audience building arena. It just should. Everything comes from that. It's the foundation from which entire businesses and empires are built. Me and the girls were having a fantastic conversation in the studio the other day, and we were talking about how the big companies in the world, the very, very large companies, most of them are owned by the same 8 people, by the same 8 multi-billionaire men. And that tells you something about where we all are in terms of our businesses and the level pecking. Right? So we would be considered a really, really small business. We're a really small business, even though we have employees, even though we have a studio, even though we have a massive remote team, even though we've been going for 5 years, we do so many different areas of business, everything you can think of under the sun. And yet we're a small business. We're also owned and led by a woman, and that makes us a massively small on the pecking order of things as well. So think about that. Think about where your opportunities are to grow, where your opportunities are to build those audiences, to get more people in to your world. Because if you're just launching, even if it's new products, you're just launching to the same 20 people over and over and over, you're going to exhaust that audience, and you're going to be disappointed when launches begin to fail. And when they begin to fail, you're going to look at lots of different things. And the one thing that will be the reason is because you haven't given enough of your time, energy, expertise, or investments into lead generation and audience building. So that's step 1 on launching. It's not even about launching, it's pre-launching. But it's so important. It's the most important, actually. The next thing that I would love for you to consider is that if you were writing a book or you were creating a TV show or building a film, you would have a start, middle, and ending of what it was that you were talking about, right? You would have an opportunity to lead people through the story of what's happening. And I would love for you to consider your launch communications in the same way. Like, where's the pre-warmers? Where's the information that educates? Where's the information that gets people interested and intrigued? Where's the information that actually gives them the middle of the story, the opportunity to understand that something's coming, for them to relate to that content? And then how do you end it? How do you close it? How do you get them in? How do you get them to that point where actually they're ready to purchase? You should be thinking about all of your communications within that kind of framework. Be thinking about that on your sales pages, be thinking about that on your emails, be thinking about that on your social medias, be thinking about that in your challenges if you decide to do a challenge, be thinking about it on your summits if you do a summit. You know, like, no matter which model you've decided to go for launching, even if it is just like a passive launch, even if it's just personal outreach, like, think about that. Where is that going to be? What's the point of that, and where is it going to happen for you? Please, please, please give yourself time. One of the main things people don't do is give themselves a juicy chunk of time to sit down and plan it, to sit down and build it, to review it, to test it, to be comfortable with it, to allow themselves to change their minds on things before things go ahead. And this is where the sweet spot of that 6 to 5 months ahead of a big launch comes in. Because if you're the type of person that has all of these things already set up and it is just an opportunity for you to rinse and repeat, there's probably going to be a few things that you want to tweak minorly, even if it's just like graphics, even if things have just moved on in terms of graphical trends or psychological selling when it comes to the theory of design. Like, all of those things might have moved on a little bit since the last time you did it. And I wonder if you give yourself the space to really consider that and be truly happy with what you're putting out. The other thing that I really, really want you to consider when launching is your tone. Please consider your tone. Consider the language that you're using in copy. If you're using a professional copywriter and the tone of the language doesn't sound exactly like you, there are still ways to make it sound more like you, but without taking away the genius from what the copywriter has added in on your behalf in order to support the right level of sales and marketing. Okay, and this is a hard thing because we all have a really personal connection to our businesses, or we don't. Like, if you're not into the marketing side of things, you might be really comfortable passing it off and just letting the experts do their work, right? But for those of us that maybe are a little bit more involved, having somebody else tell us what it should be and it not sound like what we would have created, that can actually be a little bit unnerving. But what always really stumps me is if you hire an expert and an expert says to you, I've worked on this, I know this will work, you need to give this a couple of months, let's try it and see how it goes, and you're stopping the opportunity to test those things, then you're just going to continue getting the results you've always been getting because you're going back to your own routine, you're going back to your own kind of personal preference. And what your clients need from you is not your personal preference, it's their preference. And we sometimes have to look at this and get to a point where we drop our ego a little bit and realise that actually, although I want to be happy with this, I want to be proud of it, I want this launch to look and feel wonderful for me, there is a certain element that it's not about you. It's about the people who you're attracting into your world who are going to be helped by whatever it is that you're offering them at the end of the launch, right? Whatever it is that you're actually offering them as part of the launch. It's really, really important that you consider your tone. Think about it. Like, are you being a bit too desperate? Are you being a bit too pushy? Are you talking from personal experience only and not giving the other people the opportunity to relate to you? Are you perhaps expecting everybody to purchase? Is there an expectation there? If there is an expectation, remove it. Shake it off. Get rid of the expectation. Nobody owes you nothing. I nearly used a different word, but I'll be good. Nobody owes you nothing. Nobody has to buy your stuff. Okay? It's wonderful. It's magnificent. They're the right person. You can help them. You can change their world. But you can't force somebody. You can't force somebody who's not ready. And nobody owes you anything. You've got the opportunity to give them the chance. Okay? Think about it. Plan it out. Give yourself time. I often get asked, Dawn, what's the most effective launch method? Do you know what the most effective launch method is? It's literally the launches that have a genuine excitement, not a faked excitement. Not a faked one. If behind the scenes you're talking to your friends or your team and you're saying, this is bad, only 2 people have signed up, I don't know what I did wrong, how can I pull it out of the hat? And you're spiraling into a negative bias. And then you come on and you do a live and you're like, hey guys, I'm so excited. We can tell that that's fake. Like, you should be able to step into your energy. There is a performance element to any live situation. I'm not suggesting that there isn't. Even now, right now, whilst I'm recording this, there is a performance element to the way I'm speaking, to what I'm doing. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is, behind the scenes, you have to challenge the negative thinking that, oh, this isn't working. Challenge it. 2 people have purchased. If I can get 2 people to buy, I can get 20 people to buy. If I can get 20 people to buy, I can get 200 people to buy. If I can get 200 people to buy, I can get 1,000 people to buy. Think about how you twist that perspective back into the right energy and show up for people in the right way, because they deserve it. They deserve it and they can sense it. And when it's genuine, when it's authentic, people will know. People can tell. And those are the launches, some of them that we've been involved in, some of them that our friends do, that we watch and we lovingly support in other ways. But those are the ones where you literally see people just rolling in, saying yes to themselves, feeling totally comfortable, investing, giving themselves permission to do what it is you're inviting them to do. And it is not necessarily about all the to's and fro's of what's been on the sales page. I mean, there is an important part for a lot of people. They like to read exactly what it is they're purchasing. But for a lot of people, it's about your energy. It's about you as a person. Do I buy into this person? So don't forget that when you're launching. Please make that top priority and give yourself the space and grace to really perform something just so beautiful that you come away from it elevated to the same degree. One of the things I adore about our launches is, although I am quite busy, like my annual calendar now has gotten crazy, and me and my team are actually working to reduce it again, because I have this fantastic situation within my business that when I go into growth mode, which is very much where we've been at in 2022, we invest, we are busy, I'm working long hours. I would be lying if I said that I hadn't pulled an overnighter or two. And you will hear me talk about previous times when I've done that before. It's much, much less dramatic now. It's very, very occasional, but it's still happening because we're going into growth mode, whereas I've had previous years where it's not been like that. I've also had fantastic holidays this year where I've been able to fully switch off, so there's definitely more balance. But the point is, when you go into those areas of growth, when you have that stuff and you're building, you want to just make sure that when you have these launch elements, you're enjoying them. One of the best things that I have about our launches is, because my calendar is so busy, that when I do my 2-week challenge, which in the lead up to Audience Attraction is always called Relax and Attract. And that 2 weeks is my opportunity to really connect with my people. And in my free Facebook group, come and join us if you're not already in there. For 2 weeks, we talk about valuable resources within ourselves. We talk about our energy. We talk about what our messaging needs to be, what our branding is, what our core values are, and how we can express that in a way that gives us almost like an effortless attraction of ideal clients. And that leads into the audience attraction course, which then gives you all the practical stuff. But even the people who join in the challenge but don't buy the course are uplifted by those 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks are by far my most favourite 2 weeks in the company, because my calendar is clear, other than to completely immerse myself with my people in the group. So I get to reconnect, I get to chat, I get to be lifted and be in your energy, and it is so beautiful. And people send me messages all of the time saying like, oh, either I'm in and I can't wait to spend the next 12 weeks with you, or I haven't joined this time but I just want to let you know that I've had this business result, or I've had this emotional breakthrough, or I've had this thought or feeling throughout the 2 weeks that we've had the challenge. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. It's been changing for me. I mean, I think one lady sent me a message and it was like, you've changed my entire perspective on life. And my mind was like, just blown. And I love it. I come away from those 2 weeks more energized, more kind of like zhuzhed up, like this. That's the time when I go back to my team and I'm like, right, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take over the world, and we're going to help every female entrepreneur like have an amazing business that she adores, that feels good to her, that allows her freedom, that lets her like travel and relax and be and explore who she is as a person, and really squeeze all of the juice of life out of this experience. And you know, it's funny because that's the time that my team are kind of like, oh, here we go. What's Dawney going to come back with this time? Like, what's she going to be banging on about this time? You literally have to peel me off the ceiling. I'm so excited. It's like that scene in Mary Poppins when they giggle and laugh so much that they start to float in the air, and they're sat having a cup of tea, laughing just mid-air, Dick Van Dyke, and it's just so much like that. And even as I'm talking to you now, you may have recognised it in the tone of my voice, just in tapping into the memory of it and the joy of it. Like I can feel it, I can physically feel it in my heart. I get excited and my tone changes. And right now my energy, just sat here talking to you and recording this, has changed just by tapping into how amazing that is. So try to find that for yourself. Like what are you going to really love? If you haven't listened to our podcast on not giving up on your dreams, perhaps you could incorporate something in there, like something that you really love could be part and parcel of how you do launching. Like what's your favorite thing? If you're the type of person that's like, actually, Dawn, I'm really sick of online remote learning, I just want to be in people's energy, then do a launch, do a challenge, do whatever, but do it in person. Make an event, like do that. Launch events used to be a thing. They used to be a thing. Okay, and people still do it for books, people still do it for all sorts of different things. There's, like I say, there's hundreds of models, but make it personal. Don't just do it. Everyone's doing a summit, so I'll do a summit. Oh, everyone's doing a sprint, so I'll do a sprint. Everyone's doing an email campaign. Everyone's doing an app. Just don't. Just think about what you want to do. The way that I run my challenges is a little bit fly by the seat of my pants, because although we plan them, we know exactly what we're going to do. I've often thrown in an extra day or a bonus, or, you know, I've done something ridiculous in the middle of them and just gone, right, today, tell me this, and somebody will get a prize. And that's part of the joy for me, is that I can sense what's happening at that time, and I can fully adapt into how I feel and give even more value and connect to even more people in a meaningful way. It also gives me the opportunity that when I do need to knuckle down and almost hunker away, do some actual behind the scenes stuff, I'm thinking to myself, well, that's okay, because I'm going to have those 2 weeks. I'm going to have those 2 weeks with my people. I'm still showing up. I do still show up all of the time. But if I need to have a couple of days where I'm actually behind the scenes sorting out the rig, I've got the opportunity to do that. And I know that that's waiting in the wings for me, which is always really, really wonderful. Now, the other thing that I'm going to say about launching is really important to me is that I do choose when I launch around my menstrual cycle. Sorry to any men that are listening. we talk about this stuff here. There are certain seasons throughout the month for me where I am bright and shiny penny, and certain seasons where I just want to hunker down under a blanket with my cats and never be seen again. So, of course, launching for me is not good in that winter season. It needs to be in the spring or summer seasons of my cycle. I very intentionally make it so that I have the opportunity to be on camera. I have the opportunity to do my lives, and I have the opportunity to talk to people behind the scenes and have discovery calls and things like that when it's not the worst winter week. But what we're talking about there is 2 weeks of spring and summer, and then a potential week after where you have to do all of your admin stuff. And that works perfectly for me, because when we're doing the admin stuff, we're adding people to email lists, we're making sure that everybody has access to our systems for wherever the training material will be, saved afterwards, making sure that we have the right workbooks, looking up key trends, making sure that everything that we want to add into the course is definitely there, and that the new adaptations are still, relevant, because there's been many a time when I've updated audience attraction in particular, and then something's changed again. I've had to re-update it. And we do all of that kind of in that 2 weeks after cart closes to before the course will start, and that's my opportunity then to hunker down and do all of that admin stuff in my pajamas with a cup of tea before everything starts again. What I also think is really fantastic about that additional time as well is that it gives me a bit of time to recoup, because not everybody, but for me personally, I have big bursts of energy and big bursts of feeling quite introverted. And because I'm confident, and because I am visible and I'm everywhere and I don't mind having my face on camera, and I've gotten to that place where, I'm just totally comfortable with all of that, it can sometimes be overlooked that I do sometimes like to be on my own. I can get socially overwhelmed, or I can just get overstimulated. I thank the late ADHD diagnosis for me understanding some of these things in myself as well. But that 2 weeks is a really perfect opportunity for me to recharge, for me to do all the things that I need to do, but I allow myself the opportunity to really recharge my batteries, so that when I'm delivering audience attraction, I'm at my best. And I do think that's really important. Don't run from one launch into another launch. And that's actually something that I would like to speak about. You can't launch back to back to back to back. You need to think about what your products are and where they sit in your product suite. If you've never done this before, it's an amazing practice. We do it with our clients all of the time. I used to take power hours, which were literally just product suite power hours, and give opportunities for people to place what is their accessible introductory offers, what is their kind of mediary and continual offers. Sometimes they can be your evergreens. And then what are your high ticket, high launch, big signature offers. And if you've got a good understanding of that, you can run from a large launch, from a high ticket, from a signature launch into something that's more passive, like your evergreen mediatory stuff. But you can't run launch to launch to launch to launch, and you definitely should give your audience time. This is the thing. People will approach me to work with me every day of the week, every week. But we're not launching all of the time. Just by being visible, you're allowing people to approach you to work with you. If people are never independently coming to you to work with you outside of launch moments, then that's a problem, and that's to do with your marketing. It's to do with what you're showing up like. It's to do with your content. You're not giving people a good enough understanding of how you solve their problem all the time, right? And that can be very easily solved with some strategy and some really good content marketing. And it can be organic. You don't even need ads for that. But when you're talking about the big launches, the big influxes of new people, new clients into your business, you can't do it like that all of the time. And if you are trying to do it like that all of the time, then there's something that's fundamentally not working in your marketing strategy. There's something missing. And that could be just an element of visibility. It could be an element of how you're sharing. I'm going to do another podcast in the next couple of weeks that's to do with your copy. And I think it's really, really important for this one to lead into that one as well, because it's quite a good point. Because a lot of the time with copy, we can talk a lot and say nothing, and it really does need to be honed in to a higher degree. So that's a lot. This is meant to be a 17-minute podcast, and I've taken it to 30 minutes. But launching is a big deal. If you ever want support launching, if you want support with the strategy, with the planning, or the execution, we do it. You can always reach out to me. People do all of the time. We have clients on our books that will have us be involved in every single launch, and we also have clients on our books that will come to us ahead of a launch so that we can help them strategize and plan it out and give them a step-by-step of what to do so that they can go ahead and go do that on their own within their team. And either is fine. Like, we will support you in any way we can. But the main thing, if you take anything from this podcast, the main thing I want you to consider is your energy. I want you to consider how you're showing up. And if you're sat there thinking, oh my gosh, I've had to bolt on these emails and I've had to bolt on these social posts and I didn't know I was going to do that, and this has been so scrappy and just pulled together, please know that lots of launches are like that, and nobody can tell. Nobody from the outside knows. Nobody can tell. Unless you show up and you're flapping, nobody will know. Okay? And even if you did show up and flap, we really love buying off other humans, people who feel attainable, people who feel like we can understand them, that we have common ground with them. It's no big deal to show yourself as human. It can be very, very good, in fact. So try not to stress too much about being like a totally polished or singing, dancing stuff. Getting the stuff done is more important. I've loved this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know. Give me some comments in the free group. Give me some comments below. Let me know. Don't forget to download, subscribe, and all of that blooming good stuff. And I'll see you next time. If you're loving our Pretty podcast, come on over to Social Pretties, our online safe house and sisterhood community. It's a safe space where female entrepreneurs connect and thrive in a warm, welcoming fold of pretty amazing women. You'll find an easy redirect in the description, and I can't wait to see you in there. And depending on where you're listening right now, we would love it if you would click subscribe or follow so that you can be the first to know when our new podcasts come out.